Hey everybody, welcome back. It's Tuesday, so we're here on Virtual Happy Hour. I'm your host, Greg Avola, founder of Untapped. Super excited that you're here with us today. It's Tuesday, and after a long weekend, it feels like a Monday. But we're not going to worry about that because we're going to talk about beer with a special guest coming up in a minute. But want to remind everybody out there right now that we have a special initiative that we're dealing with over at Untapped, our diversity and inclusion program that we've just started out. We have brand new merchandise that we're selling in our merchandise store that are branded glasses that represent our 4 pillars of our diversity and inclusion program. Check it out at store.untapped.com. All the proceeds from those particular purchases will go toward our programs at Untapped that aim to bring diversity and inclusion to the brewing industry internally and externally. So check it out today, store.untapped.com. Get your hands on some stickers and some glassware, all designed by local artists in each individual area there. With that aside, I want to bring in my guest today, Mandy with Beers from Mandy. How are you today?
Hi, good. How are you?
Awesome. Excited to have you here. We were just talking about in the pre-show before we found out that we used to live in the same area of New York City. And we'll get all into that about all the great things in beer. But first, let's start what we must start with when we do our virtual happy hours, the beer. So Mandy, what are you drinking on your side? I'm going to close my ears. I'm very jealous when I heard that what you're having. Tell us what you're drinking over there.
I've got the Robert Saison from Russian River. So kind of a hard one to find, but
yes.
My family's from Pennsylvania, so I have the hookup.
Well, if you don't know, Russian River is a great brewery. It only distributes really on the Colorado, California area line there. But if you are located on the East Coast, you got to go to Philadelphia. That's where these beers are all located. One of my favorite spots in Philadelphia is Monk's Cafe, which always has an amazing selection. But unfortunately, they've shut down because of COVID, which is very sad news there on that front.
The last couple of weeks, they were having a crazy can and cellar sale. So if you were in Philly.
I have a friend of mine who lives in Media, Pennsylvania, and he was showing me all those amazing beers that are out there. I'm like, oh my God, you know what? It's I've been going to Philly Beer Week for the last like 7 or 8 years. Didn't have it obviously this year because of it, but they have an amazing selection there at that location. So very jealous. But I'm drinking. This is from I've signed up for a Beer Drop subscription. It's a Colorado-based kind of delivery system. This is for Diebald intermission lager. It's actually a benefit beer that's supposed to provide proceeds will benefit the out-of-work musicians in Colorado. So definitely a good cause from that perspective. And obviously, with all the beers that we had this past weekend over at the Virtual Festival Europe. A nice lager is a good palate refresher from all the IPAs and all the other heavy beers that I've had over the weekend. So why don't we crack these beers open? If you're out there as well, we'd love for you to crack your beer open and let us know what you're drinking in the chat or on Untapped. Oh, love it. Very, very nice. So let us know what beer you're drinking in the chat right now as we pour these beers into our glasses and hopefully don't mess it up here.
All right. I have my little, I don't know when you've been to New York class, but Greats of Craft is a little bottle shop on the Upper East Side that made their little Tiku.
Interesting. Cool. I don't remember that. Upper East Side for me is all about Pony Bar that I used to go to when I was there. That was the spot I go to all the time.
I know Pony Bar too.
Yeah, it's one of the great spots there. From there. So cheers, Manny. Thank you so much for being a part of the show.
Cheers.
And cheers everybody out there for watching.
Yeah.
I gotta tell you this, I'm like a crisp lager after drinking like triple IPAs till you go to sleep. So it's definitely crisp on my side for this. So let's get into it here, Mandy. Obviously, if people have not heard of you before, tell us a little bit about your background in beer and kind of what you do with your Beers with Mandy website.
Yeah, I'm an advanced Cicerone and also an NHC gold medal homebrewer. I do a lot of freelance writing about beer. I have the column over at VinePair about homebrewing. And I'm just really into beer education. And with my Beers with Mandy, I picked it up when I was studying actually for Advanced Cicerone. I had all this beer knowledge and I was like so excited to share it. So I started my account. And since then I got my Advanced Cicerone and now I'm studying for Master. So
there you go. Nice.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. And if you remember, Manny, if you watched our 10th anniversary broadcast, we did a cooking segment where we made a stout brownies, which were, in my family, a big hit. We've made them twice since then. So definitely a lot of recipes as well from your side of cooking with beer and kind of putting it all together.
Totally. I have been tagged in a few beer brownie photos since then, which is always
That's
nice.
Awesome.
I actually just posted some cookies today. So if anyone wants molasses snickerdoodles.
You're killing me. Seriously, that's like my favorite cookie. Seriously.
Yeah, my two favorite cookies together.
Awesome. I love it. Well, ultimately, as we approach December 1st, and today is
Mhm.
December 1st, the topic of most beer drinkers out there are winter beers and winter styles. We always talk about these type of things when we go in the fall. We have the pumpkin beers that kind of dominate the market. Winter beers are obviously an area that everyone has that kind of fuzzy warm porter stout kind of drink that they like to cuddle up with a fire with.
Mhm.
Obviously you're being from New York. What are some of your favorite kind of winter beers that you can get locally in your area that kind of remind you of the holiday season?
Yeah, it's funny because for fall, I definitely go super like pumpkin spice. I love that. But for some reason, when it comes to winter, I'm more into the like kind of neutral, like winter warmer style ales. So,
Mm-hmm.
as far as what we can get, I mean, as far as things that are available pretty widely, like I love the shoots, like the
Mm-hmm.
Jubile Ale or Isolation Ale from Odell. I'm trying to think of some of the smaller ones that Trogs is up
Yes,
here, so Mad Elf every year,
that's so
obviously.
good.
um, yeah, I don't know.
There's a lot, the style is not as popular as the IPAs of the world and hazy IPAs of the
Mhm.
world, but I think that it has a special place because of the cold weather. Now, if you live in a part of the country or the world where it's warm in the wintertime, I'm not sure how you guys do. I've been a New Englander my entire life. I've always had the cold, but I can't imagine sitting outside 75 degrees weather and having a stout. But that's maybe someone's preference from that side as well. I think that the local flavor of these winter warmers and the winter ales are always a nice pleasure. Even like the Sam Adams kind of winter pack that they put together every year, as people like to razz Sam Adams all the time. It's a good pack. You get some good winter warmer beers in there that are
Yeah.
traditionally, very seasonal from that aspect there. We'd love to hear
Wait,
from you guys as well. What you guys think about the winter warmers in your area. What are your favorite winter warmers that you like to try, winter ales in your area and we'll put some on the screen. Go ahead, Manny. Sorry to cut you off there.
oh no, I just also love that like Sierra Nevada does their fresh hopped beer as their winter
Yes.
beer, celebration. And that's
Oh,
like Blizzard
yes.
of Hops from Trogs as well, is more of a hoppy take on winter. So gotta have
Yes.
variety.
Well, we have Dan
Um,
said I like celebration from Sierra Nevada.
there
That's
you
like
go.
that is like the one you think of the most. I forgot to mention when we first started. That's like the number one holiday beer on Untapped, and I think on other people's as well.
I had my eye
So
out for the Bell's Christmas, which was like a Scotch
yes,
ale. I
yes,
haven't seen it on shelves by me yet. I'm hoping this week will be the kickoff.
that one's kind of a little bit of a tricky one because you think that their
Hmm.
earlier version of that beer when they brewed it a little while ago was like a winter warmer beer. Now it's like more of a
Hmm.
Scottish ale, so a little bit
Yeah.
different from that perspective as well on that front. So that's great. Let's put some more people drinking on the screen. Mike is saying, "Cheers from Northern Virginia. Just cracked open a Clown Shoes Space
Oh,
Cake. That's a good beer as well. That's a spot. Very good one as well. Uh,
Taco
Double
Tuesday.
Homestyle by Beard to Itis. I don't know too much about Beard to Iris there, but thank you Mike, for watching.
Mhm.
What else we got here? Christopher's drinking a New England Brewing Company G-Bot in Sierra Nevada celebration at Tap at Home.
Oh, nice.
Are you saying both those are on tap at home? Because that's pretty lucky. Yeah, I think they broke up in G-Bot is one of my favorite beers. If people don't remember that beer, it's actually called the Gandhi Bot before they changed their name. It's I believe it's a single IPA from the
Mhm.
New England Brewing Company in Woodbridge, Connecticut. That's a great one. And obviously, Sierra Nevada, you can't go wrong with that. Vladimir is drinking a double dry hopped Cloud Brew Company, a UK brand that needs no introduction. That is absolutely true.
Yeah.
They are killing it and doing a great job with all those things there.
I was there
Uh,
not too long ago, back when we could fly
Travel.
across seas and it was no big deal. Yeah, London's a nice, easy trip from New York. So love the Bermondsey beer. Well, I guess it was like their offshoot. But
Very cool.
yeah.
Well, Brian is drinking a Rochester Mills peanut butter cup milkshake stout with smoked ribs and homemade truffle fries while watching. Brian,
Wow.
can we come over to your house or wherever you're located, socially distant, and
Yeah.
have the rest of what you're drinking? That'd be awesome.
Yeah, pass
Very
through the
cool.
window.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, if you're joining us today, we're talking to Mandy, who is Beers with Mandy, founder of Beer with Mandy website, all about beer. And we're talking today about winter styles as well. But if you have a question for Mandy, we'd love to put it up on the screen and get her on the hot seat because this is a virtual happy hour. So we want to make people uncomfortable. No, I'm just kidding. So use the comments on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube. We'd love to put some of those questions up on the screen so that we can answer them. So there are questions we'd love to see here. We'll put a few more beers people are drinking up on the spot here. Max is doing a pretty dry week, but I'm having an Athletics non-alcoholic IPA.
There
We had
you
Athletic
go.
on the show recently. They are making some killer beers, and I think that a lot of people that would try those would almost say if there wasn't really branded non-alcoholic, you might not really know. I mean, it's
Mhm.
doing some great beers, and the good thing about that is because it's non-alcoholic, they can ship anywhere in the world. So you can order it online, they can just ship right to your house, and you can enjoy those things. So, Max, enjoy your dry week. Hopefully, we'll see you back here next week with a beer in your hand, or an alcoholic beer from that perspective.
It's a
Very
good
cool.
idea after Thanksgiving to take a break. It can be
That's
a
true.
heavy
That's
weekend
true.
of
Yeah,
celebrating.
we last week we had Thanksgiving at my house, just
Mhm.
obviously local, not really
Mhm.
going anywhere. Then we had our virtual festival where we had like 6 or 7 beers over 2 days. Then took a break off on Monday. Now drinking a 5.5%. So we're gonna keep
There
it
you
easy
go.
for the rest of the week here as we try to
Oh,
move
I
it on
know.
from there.
Yeah, I
Here's a
know what this
question
guy is.
from
5.9.
Tyler and Tyler said, Manny, with all your credentials with beer, why did you choose journalism instead of working at a brewery?
Oh, I actually went to school for journalism, so it was a natural way to get into beer from my profession. I was working at WNYC before this,
Mhm.
so yeah. And I mean, I like to homebrew, but I think it's one of those things. When you start to do your hobby as your job, you're afraid you're not going to like it anymore. So it's really nice to keep that as my fun get away from work thing instead of making it my real job. So
Awesome. Well,
yeah.
Chris said he said yes to both. I'm lucky to get Gbot. Very happy holidays. He has both
Oh, nice.
Gbot and Sierra Nevada on tap. So Chris, very jealous of you, my friend, there as well. Obviously, we were talking before on the pre-show about you living in New York. I had lived in New York for about 5 or 6 years.
Mhm.
Obviously the crazy part of New York right now that no one is really going, and there's not a lot of tourism out there, which is probably great for New
Yeah.
Yorkers when they don't have to see so many people, walking with their head up as they walk across the street from that perspective, looking at the tall buildings. But
Mhm.
obviously you've been there for a little while now. What's your perception of the local beer scene in New York? Because it's one of those areas that everyone kind of assumes that there's all these breweries here, but space is really the key part of Manhattan. There's not a lot of it, and there's a lot of breweries in the outer areas. What's your take on the local beer scene in New York?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I live in Manhattan, so
Mm.
for me, it's a lot more about going to local beer bars and bottle shops. It's been really nice how they've been able to set up outside. New York has closed down some streets. I live really
Mm.
close to the Porterhouse Bar,
Good
and they've
place.
closed the entire street. It's actually all Athletic Brewing Company umbrellas right now, so
There you
I
go.
see them every time
A
I'm
lot
there.
of branding.
Yeah, but and I think that's a nice thing that we can feel still spread apart, still able to support these beer businesses that are so important. And actually, during the pandemic, a brewery opened in Manhattan. Torch and Crown Brewery opened right in
Oh,
Soho, so I can walk
yeah.
there, which is nice. I don't have to get on the subway and worry about anything.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think things are still growing, and like a lot of places like Threes, I've gotten to try. They
Mm.
deliver beer now, so it's really cool how the brewers have pivoted and they're still growing and trying new things, and even breweries are opening. So
It's absolutely crazy, especially with the amount of people that are in New York City with COVID and the real seriousness of it. But it's great to see
mhm.
local breweries, stepping up to the plate. When I lived in New York, I loved going to Three's Brewing Company. They had a great
Oh
outdoor
yeah.
area in the back. That's really, really amazing. But it's also great to see that they're shifting to e-commerce. Three's is one
Yes.
of the ones that definitely rings a bell in terms of
Mhm.
being able to ship anywhere in New York State, just by simply going into you know buy on the website and go from there.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's definitely a lot of smaller little craft breweries are popping up in New York City. That some big ones and some small ones. One of my favorite ones that was there a lot is Other Half. Obviously, not a
Mhm.
a small one by any means from that perspective, but I think that. They're definitely killing it. They opened up a brand new one, I believe, in Domino, which is in Williamsburg. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Williamsburg is actually getting more and more breweries. I know there's the Randolph location there. I guess it's not that new anymore, but they
Yeah.
have I think it's actually the smallest operating brew house in New York City. So that's a fun
Yeah.
pilot system they have there. And then I have to shout out Single Cut because I've always loved
Yes.
their beers. I haven't gotten
Astoria.
up to the brewery, but yeah, I can still get them from bottle shops and things like that. So
It's interesting to see kind of the explosion, over the many years in New York. I think that people kind of consider it not really a big brew town, and now
mhm.
it's become a very big spot to grab some of the latest brews. I think a lot of it has to do also with its proximity to the coast, where we have a lot of breweries like even Lawson's Liquid. Excuse me, making their way down all the way through. Excuse me. Wow, that was pretty embarrassing. Making their way down all the way through to for Connecticut with 2 roads and then being passed through as well. That's also great to see from that side. But ultimately, the biggest question I have for you is how our bars have really pivoted their kind of the way to serve customer. I think most of people that we see across the board, the Pony Bar very close with them. There's been a lot of they have an outdoor area now. They've kind of made their own. Many New York places have done this. But as weather gets colder, how can bars and restaurants really kind of survive these kind of the people wanting beer, and how can they get them in hand because they don't have the outdoor seating?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also on us a little bit. Like I just bought a 40-pack. They're kind of over there, but of the hand warmers that like you could like put in your pockets to keep your hand warm. And I'm going to be carrying blankets around with me. I think for me, especially, like I said, I can't get out to the breweries as often, but like As is a really important beer bar that I've been riding my bike up to, and I still plan to do it. They're planning to keep things open outside. So I think it's just about dedicated consumers, and we're really lucky to have like a strong New York City beer community here who's ready to support.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, for joining us today, we're talking to Mandy, who's from Beers with Mandy. Her website's all about beer. If you want to ask Mandy a question, use the chat on your program, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, and we'll get some questions on the board here from that side. Steve says he's a big fan of District Tap House in New York City. Hope they're still there. I think they are.
Yeah.
That was one thing I've been to as well. Great tap selection. I think one of the things people don't realize a lot about New York is there are a lot of great beer bars that have tons of taps to choose from. I don't know if they're still there, but Ginger Man is another one that comes to mind with tons and tons of taps. My funny story about Ginger Man is that it's so dark in there that you go there during after hour, you cannot see anything on the menu. Like it's a folded up menus. You've probably all been to a place where they have a menu where you can fold it up. It's so small font. I think it's like 32 taps or something along those lines.
Yeah.
It wraps around the building. And I always have to bring out the flashlight like I'm 80 years old, trying to figure out what's on the beer itself. So that's a great spot in New York City as well.
You have to do that at like 2 p.m. there too. So it's
that's what I'm saying. Like at happy hour or 2 a.m., whatever. It's so dark from that perspective.
Yeah, and there's Grand Delancey too, which is one that I've been trying to make my way to. I'm a big fan of like Belgian and German beers, and they're so good about keeping really cool new Belgian stuff on tap, as well as like bottles of Suarez family, which is a really fun brewery that we can get. So yeah, they have a massive menu, but they do have it nice and lit up. So no pulling out the the phone camera or the phone flashlight.
And it's not like that place is like not like enough for light. It's just poorly lit. It's just like a very
I think they do it on purpose. Yeah,
it's annoying though. I can't see the beer. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Here's a question from JRO. Does Mandy have a go-to stout or winter beer she always wants to drink when she sees it?
So stout, not as much. I actually kind of Instagram messaged around the city today to try to find a bottle of St. Bernardus Christmas Ale, because that's like my number one thing I look forward to. And I couldn't find it yet. But yeah, it's a darker beer, has those really pretty dark fruit flavors. And the thing I like about Belgian winter styles is they're a little more restrained with their spicing. There's just like a little hint of like nutmeg and clove going on instead of some other ones I've had that have a lot of, they're not really holding back on the spice. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's funny. We have some of these people popping up some New York places. Max says one of my favorite spots is Burp Castle in the East Village. So the thing with Burp Castle, if you've never been to New York City and been there for it, and this may be not true anymore because I haven't been in a while, but they actively try to shush you if you are too loud. I believe it's something to do with a noise tolerance after a certain time period. But I went there with my wife and some friends, and every so often the bartender will go, shh.
No, that's the whole thing.
It's very odd and weird. Go on Yelp and read about it because it's definitely there. And right next to that place, there's a really good sports bar called Standings. It's just a really good small little place that literally has standings all over the wall of all the sports, all the NFL, baseball, etc. Very tiny. I don't think they're going to be open nowadays in the situation. From
Burp Castle is also the meeting place of one of the New York City homebrew clubs. So
nice.
They are very beer friendly when they want to be, but I think that's kind of become their brand of the shushing thing. They got to keep it going,
Exactly. Max says in the comments too that they still do that. Last time I went there, so
Yep.
it is true. They still do that. Vladimir says the Ginger Man is in New York is untapped, verified. Just look at the app instead of the menu. Very good points. You can only use the app that's
Wow.
well lit for the menu. It's a great idea. They were not verified when I live in New York, but Mandy lives there, so now she can
There
find
you
the menu
go.
easier when she's there.
Untapped menus are always lit up, you know? That's
They
a
are. Very, very good. Here's a question for you, Manny, from Steven. Manny, I live in a rural environment and there are almost no women here in the beer industry at any level. Are we seeing more women in the beer related industries?
I think more women are coming into it and coming up. I'm actually part UG Brown Black Beer Chick on Instagram started this awesome program getting 100 women to get their certified beer server. And we're working with them and mentoring them so they can all pass the test. And I think that's the first thing is just people like me and like her and like people who are in the industry reaching out to women who are interested in taking the time. I actually someone that a friend of a friend is studying for certified cicerone and he told her to email me and now we're emailing back and forth. So I think it's just unfortunately it does fall on us to reach out to each other and help each other out because it's not I wouldn't say it's as unwelcoming. I think it can be intimidating to get into, but once you're here, it's really easy to find a community. So I think it's just those first couple steps, welcoming people in. And I hope if he knows any women who want to get in, that they reach out to women on Instagram. We're all very friendly. Everyone I've ever met is super friendly and ready to help.
I think it's great just from a diversity perspective and getting different perspectives when it comes to the beer industry. I've said this on the show 1,000 times. I'm the traditional beer drinker. I'm white. I'm a male, and I have a beard. So it's nice to have a different perspective, just thinking and talking about beer, because that's where kind of great collaborations and innovation come from. And I think one of the cool things that I've seen from this is the hop culture has this. I think it's a beer or beardless. Yes, exactly. Yeah. And that's a great way to kind of celebrate women in the craft industry when it comes to these situations. So very cool to hear, and glad that things are going well in that area.
Yeah. And I mean, to your point, it's up to the more classic craft beer drinkers when they see a woman who's interested to do the same thing that women are doing for each other and invite them in and help them find a place in the industry because there's plenty of room,
Absolutely. That's a great question here. We're talking about food and beer all the time. Kevin asks, what does beer add to a recipe and when does it enhance it or ruin the food?
Interesting. There's so many ways to use beer when cooking. One of the ways that it doesn't actually add a lot of flavor, but it can really change the texture of food is the carbonation. Like when you have a beer battered shrimp or something like that, it's not that you're actually tasting the beer. It's that extra carbonation that's released when it goes into the fryer. It will make it really super light. It also works like that in baked goods, like beer bread. Early in the pandemic when we couldn't find yeast and everyone couldn't find baking soda and everything, you can actually dump some beer into some flour and sugar and it'll bake up into bread. So that's definitely one thing, but there's a lot of things. There's flavor that it can add. It can definitely take away from food when it gets too bitter. Like if you ever wanted to make an IPA sauce and cook down an IPA, it's definitely going to get that like bitter, almost metallic flavor that not the best way to use an IPA. Yeah.
So I think it's interesting just to see what types of food and beer pair really well from just an eating and drinking perspective, but then to flip it around to when you're cooking with beer, how can we make the flavors pop and make it more tasty from that perspective. I think one of the crazy things was about that brownie, the beer stout brownies that we made on the 10th anniversary show. We had made up a bunch of them and we ate them obviously at that time, but we let it sit overnight and almost got a little boozier from that perspective over time. You can taste the more alcohol and the stout the next day. So I think, that is a great point, a great question. It also helps it long term. It can kind of change the taste of things, even with a product like a brownie that can over the next day when it's covered, it can actually taste a little bit different than it does before. So it's kind of cool how that all works out.
Yeah, that's the same if you're making like a stout frosting. That's really popular and it does the same thing.
Absolutely,
flavors bloom.
Yes. So, I mean, honestly, you said before that you get journalism was like your first thing, but how did beer become that next step for you? And why was it, how did you get into craft beer? What was your kind of gateway into in this environment, in this industry?
It was definitely homebrewing for me. Yeah. I've always been a baker and a cooker. I cook, I guess. And so when I found out, you can, make your own beer and like mess with recipes the same way I do when I'm baking, I really got into it. And then I won that gold medal at the 2016 National Homebrew Competition. And that's when I got in contact with Cicerone and I really kind of went from this hobby to getting more serious about it and thinking about it more. But definitely homebrewing for me. And I think it's a great way for anyone to get to know beer. Can't say enough good things. So
Even in your small apartment in New York, you still have room for homebrewing?
yeah, we actually picked our apartment specifically because it has a coat closet that fits my kegerator.
I like it.
There are no coats
important.
in it. Yeah. But yeah, it's possible. I think again, it's like anything, right? If you really want to do it, it's totally possible. It just does take up my whole apartment and steam up all our windows on brew day, but worth
There you
it.
go. Totally worth it from that
Yeah,
perspective there. Ultimately, I think the cool things about homebrewing is that there's so many different recipes and things to try out there. What are some tips that you've kind of learned over your years of homebrewing that you wish you knew when you kind of first started out in this endeavor?
I think the most important thing when you're first starting out, there's like so many steps to brew day and you're so worried about what temperatures you're hitting and are you transferring everything correctly. But the most important thing about brewing is fermentation. I would like get so worried about hitting all my temps on brew day and then put it in the like fermenter and stick it in my closet and be like, okay, it's off. So I think paying attention to what styles you're brewing as far as what temperature your house is, as far as what yeast you're using, if you can't do fermentation control is important. And then the first thing I would invest in is a mini fridge that you can convert into a fermentation chamber.
Absolutely.
It's like totally different. my first couple beers could only last a few weeks before the off flavor started coming out, and then you get the fermentation control, and that stops happening. So
absolutely, I think you know, with the whole pandemic that we're in right now, investing in a kegerator is probably the best thing anyone can do from that perspective, and a small little fridge from that side as well. It's pretty amazing how all that stuff comes together from that side. Another question here in the chat is: do you have a favorite style to brew when you're doing your home brews there from that side?
I'm all saison all the time. That's like my favorite. It's like hard for me not to make a saison because I love it so much. So.
Is that also from a drinking perspective, is saison to brew and drink, or are there different styles to drink from?
I mean, I didn't even think of it, but yes, I'm drinking a saison today.
you drink to your speaking of
your
food. So,
yeah, anything kind of Belgian. I've done actually last year. I got a silver for a Belgian Golden Strong. So that dry Belgian kind of style thing is totally my thing. I've been trying on for a Weizenbach for years, and it makes it to the finals every year and never medals. So I guess that's a hint to me.
Well, you just never give up, I guess, and then see where the
I keep messing with it. Yeah.
There you go. So ultimately, you know, we talk a little bit about journalism, getting into the beer space. We talked about stuff with home brewing, but for people out there that may want to get into the space of writing and being in the industry, what was kind of your early kind of like, it's how I got to where I am today moments where you think that would be repeatable by someone or advice to someone to get into this industry?
I think it kind of goes to what I was saying about women in the industry. I was in my other job and I saw a new beer publication had started, and I was like, you know what? I like beer. I had no clips like about beer, and I was just like, I'm just going to reach out and say, hey, I like beer and I'd like to write for you. And you'd be surprised how many, especially if you have some good ideas, if you're excited to talk about beer. I think emailing editors with a pitch, you can easily Google kind of how to shape a pitch, and no one's going to freak out too much about how your pitch is shaped. It just starts with like reaching out and then goes from there for sure. It's especially writing for digital. It's pretty low barrier. People are so nervous to reach out and think they can't do it, and people are so friendly, and you definitely can. So
well, it's funny nowadays where people actually can reach out on Instagram. All of that was like pretty quickly, where it's not like I don't even know the editor's email, but I'm going to reach out on Instagram and I'm going to be able to get them. I think it's crazy how much that communication has allowed us to kind of connect with people over the internet these days. It's pretty crazy.
Totally. Yeah, and I mean on Twitter, start a Twitter and talk to people.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be shy and be internet famous, I guess, or try to be that way from that perspective. So.
Yeah.
Well, Mandy, thank you so much for hanging out with us today on our virtual happy hour. It's been a blast. It always goes by so quick. So I appreciate you spending some time with us. And I want to give you the opportunity to share where people can find the internet and give you the floor for anything that you want to tell the community out there listening.
Yeah, no, I'm Beers with Mandy on Instagram and Twitter and anywhere else, except for Untapped, where I'm at Mandy KN. I need to change that. Had that for too long. But yeah, I mean, as far as everyone, I hope you celebrate with beer this holiday season. I tried to pick something with a cork because it's fun to celebrate with something corked, and beer comes that way. So spread the love over the holidays, and when we can't be together, at least we can all get together like this.
There you go. Well, we'll leave you with this. Ryan said, Untapped supporter here. Thank you so much, Ryan, for being an Untapped supporter. Hits my credit card every 6 months to keep my oldest card active. Not sure what that does for you, but we appreciate you being a supporter, Ryan. And Mandy, thank you so much for being part of the show. Yeah. And we'll talk to you soon.
Great.
Thank you. Awesome, everybody. Thank you so much for watching our virtual happy hour on this special Tuesday edition. We have a new guest coming up next week. We haven't have it laid down completely yet, but check out untapped.tv for all the information on when that broadcast is going to be, so we can share that with you as well. We really appreciate you tuning in tonight for the virtual happy hour, and thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time. Cheers.